Dear students, welcome to Law Excellence. Let us start the discussion on today's article, that is 20th December 2022. The first article, A Planet in Crisis. This is about Convention on Biodiversity. You know that this convention happened in Montreal, Canada. First, let us know certain numbers which make us to understand how severe this problem is. Today, 34,000 plants, 5,200 animal species, and almost 1 in 8 birds are facing extinction. Added to that, the known breeds, animal breeds which are being reared, among them 30% of the breeds are facing extinction. So this clearly shows how much of the gene pool is being lost. Genetic diversity is being lost. This is a loss to the humanity. So what we shall do is, we have to protect this gene pool and we have to make a sustainable use out of this. There is a lot of discussion which is going on around climate change. Conference of Parties meeting happened recently in Egypt. But CBD did not get the same attention. Because biodiversity loss, it is an invisible loss. When I was child, I used to eat different types of vegetables. Now, many of the vegetables I don't even see them. And that is a nutritional loss for all of us. Obviously, that is an example of biodiversity loss. So there is a lot of biodiversity loss which is happening, which is invisible. And there is bigger loss which is happening, which is called cultural loss. What is this? Many languages, traditions are disappearing. So in this scenario, this Montreal Protocol, what it has promised, let us see in this. 30 by 30, what does that mean? By 2030, 30% of land and sea has to be protected. Second is, indigenous populations' rights will be protected. Third, a finance mechanism will be created where $20 billion will be supported by the developing countries per year by 2025, $30 billion by 2030. So this is highlights of that. What is India's stand? Whatever the stand it took regarding climate change, the same stand it is taking. One is differential responsibilities. Many of the times the discussions are not going forward due to these differential responsibilities. But understand, India is a biodiversity hotspot. Loss of biodiversity is going to worst affect Asia, especially India. Second is pesticides. Pesticides, one of the major reason for the loss of biodiversity. When you use pesticides, microorganisms in the soil are dying. So in this case, the pesticide-free cultivation is being spoken about, and India is not supportive of that for the reason that the Indian food security depends on higher production. For that, pesticide use is necessary. But remember carefully, India has to be supportive of protection of biodiversity for its own benefit. A role of India in a World Wide Web. How world has to be seen today? This article is beautiful for your interview. So two superpowers or multiple superpowers and many of the other countries in between are a world which is multi-aligned, multi-networked, interconnected. So this is what is the view which we have to take. Today is world which is a cooperative networked system where there are multiple poles, multiple powers, multiple alignments. If you see India, on one side, India, Brazil, South Africa. Other side, BRICS is there with Russia and China. On the other side, we also have the countries without South Africa. So it means we are a part of different pools and we talk which is synergistic with India's goals and objectives in that particular pool. Second, when India started the journey, it was pioneer in creating non-aligned movement. Today, can we sit idle from all the countries saying it is non-alignment? Or, on the other side, India has preached for strategic autonomy while it spoke about non-alignment. So India can't lose its strategic autonomy. At the same time, India can't talk about NAM with a higher voice. So a pragmatism is required. So this pragmatism is engaging with all the countries to fulfill your interests. And every foreign policy of a country is ultimately to benefit or to protect the well-being and security of its citizens. So this is where India engaging as part of G7, G77, G20, and IPSA, BRICS, everything is an example of multi-alignment. So today, the world is an interconnected, super-dependent, cooperative system. In this case, the way forward is multi-alignment for India. Contextualizing Ambedkar's idea of moral democracy. This is a very complex article. Remember, liberalism, this idea, it expands to capitalism. It is the foundational basis for capitalism. This is the foundational basis for individualism. Ambedkar, he said, three are the pillars of democracy: equality, fraternity, liberty. But extreme liberty can give rise to inequalities. In the name of liberty, I can start my own business, I can make more and more money, I can use the resources to make money. Obviously, rich becomes richer, poor becomes poorer, which we are seeing today. So, your freedom to do the business which you like is part of liberty. On the other hand, if it is leading to the rise of inequalities, it is not good for the society. So that's where a balance is required. So extreme individualism is not good. There has to be a balance between individualism and fraternity. Fraternity means you have to see others as your brothers and sisters. And fraternity, this approach itself has a sense of equality and treating everyone with respect. And second, coming to the morality of Ambedkar, he says there are two dimensions of morality. One is social dimension, the other one is constitutional dimension. The constitutional morality talks about adherence to rule of law, participation in voting as a responsible citizen, protecting or respecting the rights of the others. All this comes under the constitutional morality. When we come to social morality, you have to see the person next to you as a brethren with equal respect and dignity. So the social morality, what is the major hindrance to it? The caste system is the major hindrance to it. So as caste system is hierarchy based, you can't see the next person sitting to you as brethren or someone as equal with you. So that's why the social morality is absent in India because of the rigid caste system. And next is the moral democracy which Ambedkar is talking about. It has to be studied from particularism and universalism. Particularism means a particular group tries to maximize their own benefits at the cost of the others. Let us take the rich corporates are trying to marginalize all the wealth of the country at the cost of the rest of the Indians. That can be stated as corporate particularism. On the other hand, there is something called universalism. Universalism, it means, or universality states that certain ideas, they cannot be questioned and they have to be universally applicable. In India, the caste system penetrated its roots through the particularism and also universalizing the idea of caste. So that's where what we need to do today is we have to expand the social freedoms. We have to pursue or try towards social morality in India. And that comes through constant interaction between various groups. So in this case, the particular interests of the upper caste have to be replaced by the collective interests of the entire society. And social freedoms, public reasoning, rationality has to increase in our day-to-day life. That's what strengthens the democracy. That is the essence of this article. Sometimes my classes may be appearing going overboard because these are current affairs. And rationality in the class I explain for 1 hour. But here I have to use that particular term. Public reason, rationality, and then social freedoms. These are very definite expressions and you will understand as you go through your classes in GS. Do not worry much about that. So what is the essence of this article? Extreme individualism has to be balanced with the fraternity. And the second thing is social morality is deprived through caste system. If constitutional morality has to be strengthened, there has to be social morality. Particularism has to give way for social freedoms, and then rationality and public reason. These are the points. Criminalizing consensual relationships. Observe carefully this one. a 16 years old boy, if he in a relationship, consensual relationship with a 16-year-old girl, shall we see that as a criminal activity, or shall we see that as an adolescent romance? Today, the law sees this as a criminal activity. In this case, a 16-year-old girl may get exploited. We have to protect the girl from this exploitation. At the same time, if a consensual sexual romantic relationship is involved, we shall not victimize them. A balance is required. So normally, when a young boy and girl move out of the house, the girl's parents file a case on this young boy under the POSCO Act, Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. This boy is criminalized and he will be arrested and he will be tried under POSCO Act and also as an adult sometimes. Don't you think it will have a huge impact, damaging impact on his identity, how he perceives the law? Yes or no? Second danger is, these people, if they are involved with any kind of sexual activity, they don't report it to the parents for the fear of law and fear of authority. So that's where they go for unsafe abortions, and which can threaten their life. Third thing is, there are child rights. That is, there is a United Nations Committee on the Rights of Children. What these child rights say is, the children who are involved in adolescent sexual relationships cannot be criminalized. That is what is clearly stated. So in this case, it talks about balance between the protection of children from sexual exploitation and at the same time non-criminalizing the consensual, non-exploitative sexual activity. So if it is an exploitative sexual activity, then it has to be criminalized. It's a non-exploitative sexual activity which is consensual, it shall not be criminalized. That is the essence of this. What we need to do first is sexual education. Consensual sex between boy and girl at the age of 16 years, it shall not be seen as an offense and law has to be amended. Child welfare authorities, juvenile justice boards, child welfare committees, and then law enforcement agencies, everyone shall apply their mind before putting these people to the law or treating them as violators of law. The minimum tax on big business. Here you need to understand a code that is called tax havens. Do you know Apple pays very less taxes because the headquarters of Apple, these are said to be in Ireland. And Ireland is a tax haven. What these companies do, all the revenue they earned, they keep it in a tax haven. And they show that they have paid the tax in that particular country. Obviously, if I pay money in one country, I need not pay the tax in another country due to double taxation avoidance agreements. So many of the governments are losing revenue because of this. In this scenario, what the European Union proposed and enacted is every big business has to pay 15% minimum tax in the country where it does the business. So this 15% minimum tax obviously leads to the raising of the revenue on the soil where they are doing business. Obviously, it can provide for the government to spend for various welfare benefits, which can ultimately lead to reducing inequality. And what are carbon markets? How do they operate? You are hearing for many years carbon credits. Now, what is the agency that has to give certificates on carbon credits? And then, what is the value of carbon saved by a particular agency? And how these have to be traded? These are all the questions still not answered in India. So in this case, to develop carbon credits, to certify these carbon credits, and to trade on these carbon credits, we need to have certain system in place. For that, Energy Conservation Amendment Bill 2022 has been passed. It is to deal with an agency that can provide or certify the carbon credits and the mechanisms to trade on the carbon credits and necessary regulatory systems with regard to that. These are being dealt. So these are the things. Thank you very much. Have a great day.